Hello, welcome to theartclasses.com. Today I am going to show you how I paint the scene of the warrior riding on an elephant back with a long, sharp weapon, kind of like a spear with curved blade, and the guy on horseback. I use a Photoshop CS5 and I do use CS2, also a Wacom tablet. And if this is your first video that you've seen from me, then I recommend that you might want to go check out the channel and see some easier video. This is a little more intermediate. So if you're just a beginner, then you can watch this and then you're probably gonna have a lot of questions. And I have a bunch of beginners video on my channel, so you can just go and check it out. Or if you have any questions, just put them out down on the comment and somebody will answer you. And I usually do answer the question on the comment. So this is a 30-minute speed painting of this scene, and usually I do a lot of speed painting nowadays, and I will pick one or two and refine them. Like this one, it has a potential. Actually, this is the finished speed painting, not that one. That one I tweaked the color a little bit, and this is the finished 30-minute speed painting. It's still sort of a monotone with kind of like a green theme, and then I change the lighting a little bit, and then I finished the final to be like this. So this take me about, I don't know, a bit more than 6 hours, but it takes a lot of time thinking and how to compose the scene and changing the composition. So total probably, I sit on the speed painting for a while, and then before I actually execute it, that was like a couple of days ago, and then I finally finished it. I use a lot of texture, which I'll show you after the video how I'll explain how I use the texture and the leaf, the foliage, and all that. And I've been doing a bunch of speed painting recently, and usually I think it's a pretty good practice for 30 minutes. And a lot, this one I have video which I'll probably upload next, and this one, and some recent one here, there. And I think it's a pretty good practice because you can get a lot of comps that way. It's kind of like the same way when you work with clients. You just they give you an assignment and you produce like maybe 5 comps and pick a good one. And if you do like a couple, have some time to do a couple of speed painting a day, don't think of it as just trying to scribble something within 30 minutes. Have some goal, set some topic, or pick the topic that they're given. And then try to do your best to set up a scene, and sometimes you get something really good foundation, like this one's got a decent foundation, so I kind of push it and make it to become a almost finished concept, almost illustration. Like I wouldn't call this illustration because it's not perfect. It's got more like a conceptual thing, because a lot of them are still like loose, and yeah, it could be an illustration, depends on your definition of illustration. Some of them are, I've seen a lot of them are really tight, and my painting are not quite pretty. They're not tight, they're pretty loose, like in brush stroke everywhere. Anyways, let's get started on the video. If you have any questions, post down in the comment. So in this one, I start off with a blank canvas with the green color scheme, and I will first start making, I'm going to speed up a little bit to be about 1.5 in the beginning, and then I'm going to speed up time 2 later. So I first drawing a guy on a horseback first. That's going to be a foreground. So this process that I'm thinking when I'm painting a speed painting, I'll set everything into 3 stages. So I will have 1 layer for the foreground, and 1 layer for the midground, and 1 layer for the background. So the background is probably going to be mostly environment. This one, try to make your stroke count. Like if you see I drew like the whole body and the horse, I just do that in 1 stroke. I didn't lift my Wacom, and I just use flat brush. And now I'm repositioning the horse with the guy. And I'm going to try to do the same thing with the elephant. And look at the reference. Like I have a reference of elephant, so I can get him as close as I can within a limited time. And if you want to refine it later on, then that's fine. And I screwed up that one. I need a bigger brush because it's a big guy. So now I'm just gonna create the trunk trying to make, you don't have to be fast, you just have to be precise and accurate within a time frame. So now just trying to get his face and his ear down and his tusk, just a hint, and try to get your form correct in the beginning so you have a lot less work to do later. And doing some eyes, and in this one I also make it on a different layer so that I can make an adjustment of how massive I want this guy to be, and I can reposition him later. Also the body right here, so now I speed up about ×2, and I'm just adding some shadow to find the value. So I want this guy to be super massive because a lot of illustration works, and it make an interesting point of, you know, big and small, because this has contrast of like this really huge robot and a little girl. So this look interesting. It's kind of contrast in the size, and I make the guy on horseback darker because the closer the object, the darker it is, and the more contrast they become. Like sometimes you can get a really good highlight really close. And now I'm trying to decide which position she should be in. She's holding some kind of weapon there. So it is just two elements, you know, foreground is about the horse, and midground is the elephant, and then I'll have another layer in the background. And you can even separate the layer for the elephant rider and the elephant itself, so you can readjust the position later, just in case you want to change the composition. But you should already have some kind of composition in mind, and if you don't know what composition is, or you don't know how to use them well, anything that is not in the center is fine for, you know, if you're not comfortable with that really fast yet. But I have a video on rule of thirds, so you can go take a look at that, or you can type on YouTube composition for art, or rule of the third composition, and type in my name, Zia Tara, then you find that. And then I'm adding some more interesting shape onto the guy on the horse, the horseman. Make him a samurai looking, and adding some armor onto him, and because that's what I can think of at the moment, whatever comes. And I have 30 minutes to work on this. So now I'm just going to create a background which is a bunch of foliage and leaves, because it's jungle, so it's supposed to be rich in trees and bushes and a bunch of vines. So if you don't paint a certain environment before, I recommend also look at a reference. Reference is going to save you a lot of time, and going to give you more visual library that you can work off of. So now I'm just going to erase some other part, because I paint this behind it, and the elephant is not the solid color, so it's transparent. So I erase certain part from behind the elephant, which is part of the background, so to give it some light. So that's some of the tricks that you can do. Instead of adding light on top to add more layers, that will reduce your use of layer. Use eraser. And now I'm erasing certain part of the foliage on the tree, making the ground a little darker, leaving some lighter value around on the top, but the foliage is going to still be dark because that's going to block some of the sunlight, and it will receive shadow. And now I'm using my usual foliage brush from my brush set, and add a little bit on the bottom. Making your own custom brush is pretty useful when it comes to making the process go quicker. The brush will not make your image. The brush will just help accelerate the process, but you actually have to know what to do and what to draw and how to compose an image together. Like from the beginning to this, I only use like flat brush to get the shape, and now I'm just using a texture brush to kind of add texture onto the image and make the image, the overall image, tied together. And now I flip the image, and flipping the image is really good if you want to check your proportion, and it helps you, you know, when you flip the image, you kind of look at it and you can see what's wrong with it a lot easier. And now I'm adding the foreground foliage and branch and leaves. So the foreground, if you notice, it's darker than the midground and the background because it's closer to the audience, closer to us. Now I'm adding some darker foliage. I was thinking that's probably going to be foreground too, but then later on I changed my mind, push it all the way back because I want to show off the elephant in the open space. Because you probably don't want to ride the elephant into the a narrow way in the jungle. You probably want it a little more wider space for him to maneuver. Now I'm just adding some, trying to tie the shape in the bottom together, make them the value similar, and add some shadow onto the trunk. And make flipping the image a habit. Sometimes I forgot, but it's really helped you see things that you probably won't see if you just see it in one side. It might look good on one side, but when you flip, and it's like, whoa, why does this look weird? You know, that's mean there's something wrong with your picture. So it's make your process go a lot faster. Sometimes you might not get to see something that is there yet, but when you take a break for a couple of days, come back and look at your image, you see something you're like, oh, why did I make that mistake? Because sometimes you got caught up in the moment and just want to finish it up. And this one, all the way to the end of speed painting, which is 30 minutes, I probably sit on it for like a couple of weeks before I try to finish it. And you know, you have the process like thinking and see how it's going to work and all that. But if you're in a working environment, you can't wait that long. You're probably going to have to go from one to finish within like a day or two. Don't have the convenience of doing that. But the more you do, the more you get consistent, you get better and you improve, and eventually you can be at your top form consistently. And that's why we all keep practicing. And as you see, the elephant get darker now when I flip it back, because I will make a copy of the layer on top, make the same layer that I paint the elephant on. I make a copy on it, and it make it a lot faster to make the image darker, and you can control your opacity on the layer itself, and you can make it you slide your scale and make it darker or lighter to whatever, and then you merge them. So that's one of the tricks I learned along the way. It's pretty useful. And now I'm reshaping his tusk. I want to make him really long, kind of like a mammoth-like. So and look at the reference when you do stuff, and you don't have to make it look exactly like the reference. That's not the point. The point is to make it look as real as possible. Like when you're trying to paint a mammoth, probably you want to look at the elephant, so you can have a reference point and you can tweak certain shape and form of the animal you want to portray, and you can tweak him to be a monster. You can give him 4 tusks or 5 tusks, so when you use a reference, you can use it as a starting point. Don't just paint whatever the reference has, or don't copy it. You can copy when you're trying to make a study, to give it likeness. So now I'm trying to give it back some light, because that was just a shadow and a form. And it's take a while to get the form right. And beware of the space and beware of the value. Like the value of the elephant right now, I probably will change it later on in the end because it's pretty dark. So now I'm using a dodge tool to bring out some light on the elephant, and on the shadow part it's probably way too dark. As you can see in my end result, it's got a lot lighter because you don't want the middle ground to be dark, you should have a control value of like this value range should be in the foreground and this value range should be in the background. And now I'm trying to make the tusk super light because and to make things come forward, give it more contrast, like what I make on the tusk, give it, you know, pointy stood out. I forgot what I was trying to say because this video cut and paste is kind of confused me a little bit. So now I'm trying to reshaping the elephant head a little bit more. And now I'm lighten up the scene a little bit, and I also turn off that highlight that I just gave it to the samurai guy. Now I'm just gonna focus on the elephant. Just gonna reshaping his head, adding some value. So I use level to turn up and the lighting a little bit more so I can see, because the scene before it was a little too dark, and I think this is probably have a better value range to play around with. And then add some shadow back in. And reshaping her a little bit more. And she stood out a lot against a really blank background, and in the end I decided that I should, you know, have something behind her so your eyes won't just get stuck there, because that's like a one spot that's kind of stood out and the rest of them are within the range of similar value, and that is the only one that stand out. So I don't want you to just look at the image and then bam, look at her. So that's kind of like a bad composition. It looked a little bit like a pyramid triangle too, so that was a bad call. But in my mind at the moment, I was probably think it's read pretty well, but then, you know, your eyes don't wander everywhere else, then that's not the point of composition. You're supposed to lead your eyes to look around. So now I go back to the task and refine it a little more, add a little rim light. And I probably accidentally delete some part of the layer, that's why that two lines happen. And again, refining the task, giving it light and shadow will bring your object out a little bit better. And whatever is coming closer, you get more contrast, and whatever is pushing further away, you got less contrast, and it also get lighter as a process. And closer objects tend to be warmer, and further away objects tend to have a cooler in temperature. And at this point, I'm not focusing on much. I'm just focusing on three things: foreground, midground, background, composition. Oh, I forgot, story. You gotta come up with some kind of story before you start speed painting. So you have you can come up with some dramatic scene, or try to come up with dramatic scene. So here I use a multiply and add some red onto it, and I turn on his highlight back. So here's the final that I have, but what the speed painting was that one, and I add, you know, a little more thing here because, you know, I'm trying to make it a little more comical to begin in the beginning, and then I add the blue light. Oh, actually, it was this one was the finished speed painting. Sorry, and then yeah, I add some blue light. So speed painting is there. You know, you got pretty monochromatic, and then when I look at this composition and everything, I was like, oh, this one probably has potential. It has story, kind of interesting, big small, good composition, good enough for me anyways. I'm not an expert, so this is probably like one of the better ones I can do. Not nothing exciting to a lot of professional, I don't think. And this, I just add more blue light onto it, and the blue will affect. Blue light will also be the light source for the rest of them. So now on, from this stage on, I'm just going to use more of a blue tone when I try to add light onto the object. And you see this texture that I have. I use 3 barks. Where is it? Right there. Just going to turn back to normal. You use some kind of texture, look at the elephant. It has like some wrinkle on the trunk. It has a lot of them, but I'm not doing like exactly like whatever it has. I'm just making it a little more painterly, so it has a little less. And this is probably doesn't happen. This kind of texture probably doesn't happen on real elephant. And I just kind of add a little texture to make him look a little rough and thick. So use tree trunk. I could turn on, multiply or overlay, and then you just merge that down and trying to paint it. Or you can also using Control T and tweak them, and then merge it and then paint it, and then trying to make it look as natural as possible to blend them into the picture. So that's the next state I came on, is from there to there. And as you can see, the tusk doesn't change much. That's the only thing in the image that doesn't change all the way to the end. So I keep the tusk because I like the stroke that I put on. I like the I don't know, it just look something that I enjoy. The painterly look. It doesn't look too refined. I like it a little rougher, so it still make it look like a little more like painting. I don't paint everything too tight, because that's just not, it's not in me. I can't do anything too tight. I like to keep it loose. Like you can see, there's a bunch of scribble, stroke, a bunch of brush, and leaf here and there. And the next step, I just I think she stand out a little bit too much against the sky, and it's kind of throwing off the whole picture, because she's kind of there. I'm here, so I move her onto the side, add a foliage behind her to kind of block out her shape, so she doesn't be the only thing that stand out in the scene. I mean, it might be good composition, I'm not sure, but I think to me I'd rather put her in here and have it's easier for me to put some highlight on her too, the green. And this foliage is just like a little dab of brushes, and I draw some vine. Take a bit of time, hours. And the foliage on the bottom, I use some of the photo texture of, just Google some jungle and you can find some foliage and make, a few of them, and trying to make a judgment call which one will suit your illustration, and put them in and repaint them. And so that will save you a lot of time. Just put some image and repaint them. Don't make it look anything like photograph, just paint over. And I also add some dust on the bottom below. And I eventually change this guy from a samurai into a horse a little bit. And he doesn't really sit that low, because when I move him along, I change the short hand and I make him to become a medieval knight instead, and add some red onto the scene, because I try to make a variation of my photo, because usually when I paint, my image are a lot more monochromatic. So this one I'm trying to push the color as much as I can, and this is what I get. Anyways, I hope this tutorial is helpful to you guys, and if you guys want to know more, go to my channel. There are like 350 videos. I also have a premium tutorial on my website. Those are like 2 hours and explain everything you intend. And I also have a mentorship program which I will teach you how to paint. And so if you want to get better at painting, then feel free to click on the link above. And all right, well, I guess this is it for today, and hopefully I can put up another painting video soon. And I'm trying to work on the more speed painting and make it up to this level. And sometimes I can't record it all the way through, because this painting take like 6 hours, and sometimes I go back and forth in between. So the recording process is gonna put my computer in jeopardy because it's gonna take video file take a lot of space, and I record a lot of speed painting videos. So I have tons of video that I haven't have a voiceover. So I save those, and sometimes I record long 6 hours. That would take way too much space, and I have some error, especially if you paint a long time. It's kind of distracting too, so I need to focus. But anyways, yeah, that's how it is. Well, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.